Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Acquay. Welcome to week three. Um, if you are listening to this record, it means I'm not in class. For some reason, I'm not able to come to class today, and so I wanted to record the chapter for you. And then later in the afternoon, between 12 and 1, I will be on campus in the area where we talked about in class, and I'll be waiting there for about an hour. If you have questions, you can always meet me there, or you can email me as always. So let's start with the lecture today. We'll be looking at chapter 4. For chapter 4, we're looking at demanding ethical and social responsibility or social responsible behavior. Now, I'm going to skip this part of it. We'll know you know about that. But one thing I want to start with is that why is it important to obey the laws? So the importance of obeying the law, that is in terms of in the business context. We've heard of many scandals, many business scandals. Um, I'm sure you know of Enron, the Enron scandal. If not, there's a video in the classroom, and you can always go on the web link and um, just listen to that video. We recently heard about Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, what were they doing? In summary or in the gist, what they were doing was they were on doing unlawful things like setting up accounts, additional accounts for customers without their knowledge. So basically, what was happening was if I have an account with Wells Fargo, just because there was so much pressure on employees to, get more people through the door and create more accounts. Again, their bonus depends on that. Basically, they were forced to take information of customers that they already have, existing customers, and then set up another account without their knowledge. And the sad part of this whole thing was um, they set up the account, the customers don't know about it, but then the banks, if you don't have sufficient funds in your account, they charge you for it. So then they would, kind of withdraw money unauthorized from your regular account, the one that is genuine account, to pay for something you are not aware of. So when this came to light, you could see that the practice was quite rampant across um, Wells Fargo, and that got them into trouble. People resigned, people were fired, they got bad publicity. I mean, this was not good for the business. So when you behave this way, you basically erode the trust of your customers. So basically, how the question is, how do you get back? How do you get back on track with your customers? Well, some of the tips here is that punish those who have broken the law, make accounting records more transparent, consider what is ethical, not just what is legal. So we will start chapter 4 with this. I'm showing your textbook. There are other examples that they give, but I'll add more. The Madoff investment security fraud, basically setting up a Ponzi scheme. You can read more, or there's also a video on that. And as I talked about it earlier, we have the Enron scheme, and then also WorldCom scheme. So first question we should ask ourselves is, what does ethics mean? What is ethics? Well, it is the standards of moral behavior, behaviors that are accepted by society as right versus wrong. We all know that it is wrong to kill somebody. It is wrong to steal. It is wrong to cheat in the class as students. But some people do it anyway. So basically, it's looking at the basic morals, the right and wrong of basic morals. So basic moral values, what is that? Let's look at a few rights: integrity, respect for human life, self-control, honesty, courage, self-sacrifice. I'm sure when you're growing up, your parents will kind of try to instill some of these values into you. Like when you lie, they call you to the side or maybe give you a timeout and say, "Don't lie to me again," or stuff like that. Now, let's look at a few examples of wrongs: cheating, cowardice, cruelty. We've seen a lot of these going on in the society. So these are things that this chapter actually looks at, but in the context of the business world, not as individuals. Okay. So ethics and you. Let's apply it to ourselves. We're students. You're students. What are the key things? Do not plagiarize. Don't cheat. Like, don't you have writing assignment. Don't go copy stuff from online and post them in the paper. Put them in your paper and submit it as your own assignment. As I had stated in the syllabus, if I detect that, you will get an automatic 0. So these are some of the things that ethics is not only happening, issues don't only happen in the business world. It happens all around us. There are times that we find ourselves in like ethical dilemmas. Sometimes it's not a black and white issue. Sometimes there's some gray areas that you have to, deal with. So it's just have a mindset that would help you navigate through some of these challenges. We have people, Facebook scammers, and so forth. So one question we can ask ourselves is, do you think it is ethical to create a fake account in Facebook or a fake account for something? That depends. So we can discuss this in class when I get back. But start thinking about things this way. So facing ethical dilemma, there are a few guidelines. These are basic guidelines that you ask yourself when you find yourself in a position where you kind of describe it as an ethical dilemma. So question number one is you ask yourself, is it legal? What you're about to do, is it a legal thing? If it's not legal, you end up in jail. There are consequences. So then you advise yourself what you want to do. The next question, if it's legal, you move to the next question. What I'm about to do, is it balanced? Is it balanced meaning, is it fair on each side? I have to do, cost benefit analysis to see whether what I'm about to do, is it fair to this person or is it fair to me, and so forth. The next one is you ask yourself, I think this is more of a personal one, where you ask yourself, how will it make me feel um, about myself once I do it? Will it make me proud? Will it make my family proud? Will I be proud about it? For example, if you post certain pictures online, you do all these things, would you feel proud when it comes out? Those are the questions. So basically, if you think about these things, use these as guidelines, it will help you, as I said, navigate all the challenges that are yet to come. And believe me, you're going to have, life is always filled with challenges and you're going to go through these things. So when I come to class, we can share some experiences or your experiences and, have a discussion. Factors that influence managerial ethics. Okay, here we're again sticking to just the business context, in the business context. Um, it leads to the question, why do good people sometimes behave badly in business? Well, we have the individual things that can influence it. That's the values. The values that we bring, we grow with, like our parents train us. If your parents train you that it's okay to cheat, obviously as you grow, you continue to behave that way because you don't see anything wrong with it. But if your parents train you to, not do all these things, think about other people, think about how your decisions does affect other people. You will behave this way. Another one is the work background. Sometimes, even though you have good personal values, you work in an environment where your managers or your bosses are not don't behave ethically. So you ask yourself whether you want to keep working there because you need the money to survive, or you want to find another company that you think are better, where behave ethically. Then you have family status. Your family can also create, be part of it. Your personality. That is you're born with, and this is who you are. Then we go into the organizational setting, basically top level management, their philosophy. If the philosophy is it's okay, just like how Wells Fargo, the way they were behaving, it was actually sanctioned by the top managers. And so if that's how they are behaving, obviously, if you want to survive in that environment, you have to join them. Next one is the reward system. How do they reward you? Again, using the Wells Fargo example, the more people you bring in, the more bonus you get, the larger your bonus. So basically, what's happening, they put pressure on you, and then it becomes the norm. You think this is acceptable, and you keep going with it. Then also the job dimension, the type of work you do. I know a lot of salesmen will say, do I lie to the customer? Do I speak the truth? They kind of find a way to make it creative, to make it creative. So organizational, in terms of your organization, does have influence on sometimes how you deal with ethical issues. Then the environment, competition, economic condition, and then social and cultural institution. So these are the three different areas that tend to influence how managers deal with ethical issues. But organizations are starting to look into themselves and see, obviously, because of all these issues that have come up. So we have ethics codes. So it says an increasing number of companies have adopted written ethics code of, code of ethics rather. We have two types. We have compliance-based ethics code. This kind of emphasizes on preventing unlawful behavior by increasing control and by penalizing people who go the wrong way, people who do wrong. So basically, pay your taxes, don't lie to the federal government, get this kind of license, you have to get this. So these are basic things that by law you have to do to get your business going. But then we also have integrity-based ethics. This is defined as the organization's guiding values, create an environment that supports ethical, sound behavior and stresses on accountability. So this is something that is controlled internally. So do we want to be a company? Do we behave, you know, things we don't have control on ethics, so we kind of encourage our employees to do whatever they want at the, just to get the profit. These are things that companies are looking into and trying to get ahead of the game by training the employees so that they can behave better and maintain the trust of customers. How to improve America's business ethics. It says top management must adopt and unconditionally support an explicit corporate code of ethics. The idea here is that don't just write the codes so that when somebody say, do you have the codes, you can show it to them. Make sure you integrate, you incorporate into your training and have employees understand what is going on. Next is employees must understand that senior management expect all employees to act ethically. That means that it's not only the employees, senior management must also behave that way. It's basically follow your leader. If I see my leader is not behaving ethically, I have the tendency to also join them and behave that way. So, lead by example is what you're saying here. Managers and others must also be trained to consider ethical implication of all business decisions. So if you incorporate this kind of culture in the workplace, every decision that the business makes, you have to think of the pros and cons. How is this going to affect my customers? Or how is it going to affect my employees, my community, the environment, and so forth? When you do that, it just comes to you easily. This is what these pointers are saying, emphasizing. So an ethics office must be set up with which employees can communicate anonymously. Okay, this is an addition where you provide an environment where people supposedly feel free to go and basically be like whistleblowers when things are not going right. But if you want to do that, my advice to you is to be very careful. Be very careful because sometimes we've had stories and studies come out to show that sometimes it's not all that um, as simple as it sounds. Anyway, involve outsiders such as suppliers, contracted distributors, and other customers. So companies deal with suppliers. So sometimes they will outsource, as we discussed last week in the class, that offshore sourcing. Let me give you an example. Apple kind of sources the phone, the device with a company called Foxconn, and they're in China. And there was a problem. They were treating their employees badly. I don't know whether it has something to do with culture or what was going on. They work long hours. They were so stressed out. And one of the problems was that they kind of were in a network where if you can't leave, if you're not happy with your job, they can't leave because if you leave, you can't find another job in the area. because basically you're like they blackball you. So people were so frustrated and so depressed, and so people started committing suicide. And so some of these watchdogs, we'll talk about watchdogs later. There's some kind of organizations that kind of look into um, how companies behave ethically. So if there's something going wrong, they bring it to light. So this was reported that Apple's supplier was treating workers badly. And guess what? Even though it wasn't Apple doing this, it did affect them. They had bad publicity, so they had to make sure that they come up with good PR and good, response. And the response was they went back and trained this Foxconn company, and so far they've been improving because the watchdogs keep looking at what's going on. So some of the things is that's why it's important that you have to get your suppliers involved so that if there's any bad publicity, something goes wrong on that side, it doesn't negatively affect you. If you get them involved, then they will be on the same page with you. Now, also, if you have developed a code of ethics, you have to enforce it. So basically, if you tell your employees, don't do this, don't do this, these are the consequences. When it happens, somebody goes against those codes, you have to enforce it. You have to make sure the consequences, if it's firing or you send them to police or whatever you want to do, you have to make sure that it's not just a piece of paper hanging on the wall or in HR department. So you have to enforce it. That is what will make it more effective. So, how to prevent unethical behaviors in the workplace? Managers must communicate the organization's vision on ethical behavior. If I work for an organization and I don't understand what they stand for when it comes to ethics, obviously we are not on the same page. So it's very important that either they're going to do it on the first day of work, which maybe when you're going through your orientation, that they train you, and maybe periodically they remind you that these are the guidelines. I'm reminding you again this year or every 2 years, whatever. They have to come up with a plan on how to do it. So organizations must have the code, so you should have it. By law, policies have to be enforced regarding ethical offenses. Ethical responsibility must be taught to all employees. Discussions of ethics must be included in decision making. So as I said earlier, incorporate it in all the decisions you make. Do the pros and cons or cost benefit analysis and include all that in a way of thinking. When you do that, you set the employees, you kind of give them guidelines on how to um, come up with ethical decision making. Accountability must be taken seriously at all levels in the organization, and organization must act fast when there's a crisis. Now, companies or customers, I should say, are looking at how a lot of companies react to crisis. So if you sit there, things come out, and you don't take control of it quickly and try to fix it, they're looking at that. You lose customers, they lose trust in you. That's not a good way to go. Employees must know they have, to defend and maintain the company's reputation. If you've noticed, some people have been fired because they went online and wrote some negative things about their company. Be very careful again how you do it. So if you want to do that, you be on the same page with your employees and also treat them right. So let's keep going. Now we're moving into corporate social responsibility. I'm sure you've heard about CSR or corporate social responsibility. Basically, this concept it's related to business, how businesses kind of consider the welfare of the society or the environment in which they operate. So CSR is based on a commitment to integrity, fairness, and respect. And CSR, people who argue in favor of CSR believe that businesses owe their existence to the society and that they serve. And so they cannot exist in the society if it fails. So basically, what it's saying here is that without customers who would patronize your business, you do not exist. So why don't you treat them right? Why don't you kind of share things with them? You know, be respectful to them. Don't just focus on only profit, but treat them right. So these are the things that basically we expect from companies or businesses. So how do some of the companies deal with CSR practice, or how do they practice CSR? Some of them do it through philanthropy. So they include charity donations. Some of them have actually partnered with um, groups like Habitat for Humanities, as you see in the picture here, Habitat for Humanities, and they would help underserved communities improve, give them homes to live, give them food to to eat, and so forth. Maybe scholarships or back to school equipment, maybe books, backpacks, and so forth. Now, corporate social initiatives that includes enhancing forms of corporate philanthropy. And then we have corporate responsibility, which includes everything from hiring minority workers to making safe products, minimizing pollution, using energy wisely, and providing a safe work environment. Now, what I would say is corporations are beginning to see that when they do these things, it's actually a win-win thing. If you treat the community right, they patronize you, so it can help in increasing profits. You may not see it immediately, but in the long run, it's like we are a community, we are family. Let's work together. And these are some of the things that a lot of corporations are beginning to realize at this time. All right. So now we talked about corporate responsibility, but I want to also remind you that there is also citizens' responsibility, or I would say consumer responsibility or customer responsibility. There are things that we also corporations expect from us. For example, we have to be truthful. I've read, I think there was a story about somebody who went to McDonald's and put a roach or some thing in their coffee and then lied about it. And then they got caught on camera doing it. So don't lie, don't make up stories because you want money, you want to, sue companies and so. So these are responsibilities. Also, this is basic. I'm actually sometimes even guilty of that. We go to the store, we buy stuff, we don't read anything about how to use it. We use it the wrong way. Something happens and we're complaining that the product is bad, only to find out that we didn't use it the right way. I'm sure we go through a lot of that too. So these are some of the things, basic things that you know companies will also um, require from us. Our responsibility. What is our responsibility? Don't do this, and so forth. If we were in class, I would ask you questions, and then we can share more. But we can always share that on Wednesday when I'm back in class. Responsibility to employees. So this is employers and employees. So their responsibility includes creating jobs and providing a chance for upward mobility. What this statement is saying is that when I'm working, I am motivated when I know that when I work here, maybe in a few years, I will move to the next level, because that motivates me. And if I keep going, I will have job satisfaction. Nobody wants to be sitting, let's say you go to a job and your job is maybe you're a cashier. Nobody wants to stay there as a cashier forever. They want to be assistant manager, general manager, and it goes on. When you keep, you know that you're moving forward. So what this statement is saying, the first statement is saying, is that you have to create the environment for that and guide employees to go through this. Now, treat employees with respect. We all like to be respected, and that goes both ways. We also respect them, and they respect us. But it's not always that way. Offer salaries and benefits that help employees reach their personal goals. Um, Pay raises. Don't give the person one salary for the rest of the years that they spend there. Like 10 years, they're taking the same salary. That's not right. So these are things that basically treat people right. Now, this slide is showing um, some people who give, like philanthropy, giving money and so forth. But my point here is that you don't have to be rich to do that. The little, even if it's $5 that you can give and help the community. We've heard about Hurricane Harvey and Irma, or the destruction. If you can give a little to help the needy, that's good. Don't rely on just the rich people. Fine, it's great, we appreciate it, but everybody can do that. Same here, is giving example of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and so forth, but you can give as well. Now, President Kennedy believes that consumers have basic rights. And his argument was that we have the right, as consumers, we have the right to safety, the right to be informed, the right to choose, and the right to be heard. Now, the right to safety here is that when I buy a product, I expect that the product is a good product for whatever I'm going to use. Let's say I buy toothpaste. When I buy, you and I, anyone purchases toothpaste, we believe that the toothpaste would clean our mouths, make it refreshed, and so forth. We are not going to buy toothpaste and that would destroy our mouth or end up, in the emergency room. That's not what we want. So we have the right to safety. When they say this is what is in the toothpaste, we expect that that is what is in the toothpaste and not some other thing else. So we have the right to be informed. Again, that is why with products we say this is in, this is in. We have peanuts, so if you have peanut allergies, don't go for it, and so forth. The right to choose. I have the right to choose Colgate, or if I want to choose Crest for my toothpaste. So that's giving them options. You give people options. Okay. The right to be heard. If I have a problem with the community, if I have a problem with the company, there's maybe a channel that I can kind of post my grievance or let them know that I'm not happy with something or something didn't go right. So these are the key things that President Kennedy said we as consumers have that, at least have that basic right. Now we move on to something called insider trading. Um, it is insider trading is using private company information to further your own fortune. Now, if let's go back to Wall Street. If somebody is in Wall Street and has inside information that a company